how are we going to go ahead with this part of PIB? Predominantly, you are reading PIB for prelim sake. So whenever we are picking up an article from PIB, I will try to link it to previous year question themes. Okay. Now, I will also tell you why we are picking up some articles. It is not random. You need to map it to the strategic significance or why a certain fact or certain current affairs is important for our country's needs. Like I told you, we are always trying to be problem solvers, and in that bit, we are trying to understand the problem better. Firstly, anything that is related to coal is important. We have had this discussion multiple times. Can you tell me why? Why is coal important? How much percentage of thermal energy is produced from coal, or energy is produced from thermal energy, and how much of it is coal? Did you ever try to look at it? Just let me show this once, because even previously I tried to show, but see, whenever you are, I'm not opening this because this is an old data probably. Power sector at a glance. Whenever you are writing the exam, whether it is prelims exam or the mains exam, it will be updated every 3 months. Look at the latest data and gather the statistics. You will see that roughly 55 to 60%, or the aim is to bring it down to 50%. The rest should come from renewable energy. That is a target. But most of it is coming from coal. So coal has both economic significance as well as environmental significance. Economic and environmental. Because the prerequisite for any economic activity is access to energy. Without access to energy, you cannot start any business. Right? So it is important for India to move away from coal as a source. It is in this context you will see a lot of questions asked in both prelims exam as well as mains exam for coal, from coal. So usually UPSC will pick up questions from ministry statements, official documents, and it will twist it. Now in this article, which will seem like a very large set of information, we need to see how UPSC or the examiner will use certain, the mindset of the students to twist certain facts and ask questions. Remember, when we are saying prelims exam is a test of elimination, it is an elimination based on your ability to judge something. It is not based on your ability to remember something. Now, the traditional method in your school level, whenever you are given a piece of information like this, what would you do? You would pick up that, read it from end to end, try to remember it, and try to recollect it. That's not how this exam works. You need to understand the logic behind everything that you are reading. Now, let's say, for example, normally, if if you are preparing for this exam just like how we prepare at a school level, what would you do? We would take up this and read it line by line and remember. I want you to change your attitude here. Whenever you're reading something, the curiosity should always be aligned in the direction of the exam. How can this statement be asked in the exam? How can we use this in the exam? This is the only way you should be thinking to clear this exam. Now, for example, Ministry of Coal. Okay. Now, when I say Ministry of Coal, how many of you knew that there was a separate ministry for coal? Why do we have a separate ministry for coal? This should be the first point. Why only coal? Why not other areas? Like, why do we not have separate ministries for every fossil fuel? See, is there a Ministry of Crude Oil, Petroleum and Natural Gas? Why both of them are clubbed together? Why not club coal also with it? There must be some logic, right? We have a Ministry of Power. We have Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. We have Ministry of Coal. We have Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. Why so many divisions? There must be some logic. So, which tells us that coal is not just used for power, it may be used for other resources. Power generation at scale. When I say power, that is where your curiosity should start. What is the role, or what is the problem that is solved by creating a separate coal ministry? See, I'm not asking you to go and do this level of research, but when you are reading, active learning and passive learning, these are the two kinds of styles when you are preparing on your own. Most of you are self-preparing students, okay? Except for a few of you, most of you are preparing on your own. Now, when you're preparing on your own, how to utilize your time is when you are indulging in active learning. What is active learning? This is what it means. Always raising questions on the themes that are repeated in the previous exams. Okay, so is committed to promoting sustainable coal mining practices. So when you're talking about sustainability in coal practices, you should know why. When you ask this why, you will understand the problems of coal mining. So once you understand the problems of coal mining, these practices will automatically act as solutions for those problems. So this is called reverse engineering. Okay. Now, now we will see. There are some advanced technologies which are given. Now the question is, should you remember these technologies? My answer is no. Your ability to at least identify some keywords in the examination when new topics like this are coming is good enough. You should be careful in picking up the odd one out. Rather than trying to memorize everything, memorize the odd one out. Okay? See here. Surface mining, eccentric rippers, continuous miner, and high wall mining. All this refer to practices which can reduce pollution from coal. Say, for example, when you are blasting a coal mine, it will release particulate matter, PM 2.5 and PM 5. Particulate matter, which are polluting in nature, they will enter into our bloodstreams, and some of them even act like aerosols. These aerosols will also impact our atmospheric circulation, our cloud formation, and therefore albedo also. When they are, the concept of albedo, they will settle down on, let's say, for example, some surface, and they will impact either positively or negatively the ability to absorb, energy. So now in this context, you see another concept of bioreclamation and afforestation. So these PSUs have also undertaken initiatives in bioreclamation and afforestation. Now look at this word PSU. Now I have a question. During COVID package in 2020, a reform happened. Till then, coal mining was not privatized. And after 2020, coal mining was privatized. You have something called captive mining, meaning, let's say, for example, a small block of a mine is reserved for a specific company's use. Before that, it was not allowed. Why did the government do it, etc.? The backstory I have posted on my Telegram channel. Just search the story of coal. Coal mining. You just search, you will get a lot of articles. I even wrote a blog post. You can go and read that. It explained the entire history behind that. I'm giving this because it is important for it's very important for your exam. The backstory behind this, at NCRT level, you will see various kinds of coal. What are the various kinds of coal and the distribution? Where do you find different kinds of coal? Can you tell me the different kinds of coal? Bituminous, lignite, anthracite. That's it. Is there anything else? Peat. Yeah. Biochar. Is it a type of coal? Is it a type of coal? What is the difference between biochar and coal? It's the pyrolysis of coal or organic matter. So is there any similarity in the way biochar is produced and coal is produced? If yes, if there is similarity, why are we getting biochar? Why not coal? There must be some difference. What is the difference? Can you produce biochar in your lifetime? We can't. We are talking about carbon sequestration mechanism. We already discussed this. We want to use biochar as a carbon sequestration mechanism. Why not use coal itself? Coal also has carbon content. Why not produce coal? The difference is the difference in pressure and time. The amount of pressure you need to subjugate organic matter and the time period which you need to subjugate that organic matter and that pressure is the difference between biochar and coal. It's a natural process. This is a artificial process. So, of course, it's a natural process here also, but the pressure is the difference and the time period is the difference. There also, absence of oxygen is there. You need to see the subtle nuances conceptually, and this is where UPSC tests us. Now, after a blast site, sorry, usual method of mining is blast. Okay, they will just um, put some dynamite in the mine, and they'll blast it and rip it open, and then pick up the block pieces. You must have all seen Salar movies or any KGF movie. The tone itself will tell you like how the mining works happen. So, in most of the mining activities and right, you will use this coal because it's a source of fuel. Even in steel industry will use coal. In such an important activity, which is also the largest source of energy and also the largest source of pollution, these sustainable practices will reduce the pollution. One of them is, let's say, you instead of blasting them open, if you pick them on surface without producing particulate matter, if you pour water on it, you might be wondering, if you pour water on coal, don't you think they'll absorb moisture and they get wasted? No, that's not how it works. Coal will become less useful not when you pour water on it, but when water gets absorbed into it, and it will take huge time for coal to absorb water. Once you dry up coal, again it will get back its natural form. Even if it gets drenched in rain, it's not a huge problem unless you submerge it and keep it there like that for days together. So by sprinkling water and by using some desulfurization tools at the power plant, we are looking at the entire supply chain, and wherever possible from mining till production, we're trying to contain the pollution. And since these activities are very important for our decarbonization agenda and reduction of pollution, this article becomes important. Okay, yeah, this one. See, water scarcity is a very big issue. Okay, every year you will see either in prelims or mains water resources based question, either in GS1 or GS3 or prelims. See, one more trend that I previously mentioned. If you find a question in GS1 and 3, you will invariably find that in prelims the subsequent years. So please be careful. You should not segregate your preparation at prelims and mains level. Both should happen in tandem. Okay. Now, we are talking about two schemes. This present article, again from a prelim standpoint, how can we use? We are looking at it. The objective here is not to give you information, but to train you to look at the kind of information that the examiner will use to create questions. So now I will show you the statements which you need to focus on. Previously, when we were discussing health, when we were discussing the entire initiatives taken up by the government, we saw how we have to use the information and map it to a process, right? In that activity, I told you any scheme will become easy to remember when you understand the objective. So let's see the objective. The word itself sometimes gives you a clarity. Atal Bhujal. So is this about surface water or groundwater? Groundwater. So Jal Jeevan Mission. Now automatically you might assume that this is about surface water. So what about surface water? Is it really about surface water? Let's see. Okay. Read each statement carefully, not with an intent to remember, but to see how examiner will make questions. Since August 2009, Government of India in partnership with states. What does this mean? Can you link this statement, partnership with states, to one syllabus item? Federalism, exactly. Center-state relations. So, now tell me, water management, is it a center subject or a state subject? Right? Is implementing Jal Jeevan Mission, Har Ghar Jal, to make provisions of potable water to every rural. So how can examiner change this? He can make it urban. So you need to know the objective first. Which of the following statements about Jal Jeevan Mission are right? Statement number 1. Government of India is implementing the scheme to make the provision of potable water to every urban household of the country through functional tap water connection. Now tell me, is this right or wrong? That's how it will start. At the time of announcement of JJM, some households had before and after. See, the purpose of every report is to show some progress and be accountable. Before, so and so number of households had, now so and so number of households are there. Is it important to remember numbers? No, don't waste your memory on that. Are reported to have tap water supplies in their homes. State-wise details are given, don't by heart that. You have to see the trend. Drinking water being a state subject. Usually, when you prepare from current affair materials or random, you know, compilations, when you are not actively reading but passively consuming information, these are the nuances which you will miss. Drinking water being a state subject, and therefore it is states who plan, design, approve, and implement drinking water supply schemes. Then what is the role of center? If everything is done by the states, why is center involving? You must ideally get this doubt. Is this doubt addressed here or not? Let's see. Government of India supplements the efforts by providing technical and financial assistance. So what is the role of state? What is the role of center? Is it clear now? So I am applying this template to every scheme on state subject. I will consider this to be the default mode. Everything related to planning and execution will be taken care by the states when it is a state subject, but when it comes to center, it will give money and technical assistance. I don't know how to do it, but if you train me, I will do it. I'll take care of it. What makes you think that the center is in a better place? Because it has the experience to learn from different states and coordinate. Right? As per operational guidelines for the implementation of the mission, the state-wise allocation is decided as per some parameters. Rural population, SC and ST population. Do I have to mention separately that this is a rural population? Why? Because this scheme is meant for rural only, na? Rural SC and ST population. States under Desert Development Program, Drought Prone Area Program, Special Category Hill States. All this will get 30%. Population residing in habitations affected by chemical contaminants. There is another article in the Hindu newspaper today. I will show you that also. The rules related to chemical contaminants. But please note this. Let's say an area is contaminated because of an industry, and that area will have, heavy metal poisoning through drinking water. Who should bear the price of that? That's the article we'll be discussing. New rules came up. We'll see that. And balance individual household connections. Further, the fund sharing pattern between center and states. Under JGM being a centrally sponsored program, 100% for UTs. Why 100%? They're directly administered by central government. 90-10 Northeastern. Why this disparity? Because they don't have enough resources. And Northeast being the gateway to the Act East policy. We are emphasizing on empowering the Northeastern states. And Himalayan states and UTs with legislature 50-50. Moreover, under support and water quality monitoring initiatives, the funding pattern is 100%, 90 and 60-40 for other states. Okay. Should you remember anything here? The numbers, the percentages? Don't waste your time. Unless and until there is an anomaly, don't waste your time guessing and remembering numbers, the percentages, shares. Okay. This is the usual funding pattern. 60-40, 50-50 doesn't matter. Don't remember that. Even if a question is asked and you make it wrong, it's fine. You can score it elsewhere. Focus your energy on what really matters. So this is what I wanted to show, basically. Now, urban areas, you might be wondering. Further, as informed by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, several steps towards sustainable management and conservation of water in urban areas happen through AMRUT, Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation. Under this, you will have tap water connections. Clear? So, Jal Jeevan Mission for rural, AMRUT for urban. Clear? Now, another important article here is this Amrit Sarovar Mission by the same ministry. Please focus on this also. Whenever you are getting any discussion on PIB, please on the same day itself go to the respective ministry website and have a look. You will try to appreciate the governance aspects better, and always link it to the static NCERT textbooks on the same day. That's how you'll reinforce this thinking. Clear? Now, Mission Amrit Sarovar was launched on so and so date. Not important to remember the dates again. To construct, rejuvenate 75 sarovars in each rural district. Okay. So, what is this? Basically, what do you mean by Sarovar? Let's see here. The initiative contributed significantly to addressing the critical problem of water scarcity, surface and groundwater availability in region. Basically, whatever water bodies are there, which will act as replenishing agents, you will capture the water locally. Basin management, basically. Wherever you will find water, you have to capture them. That is the whole idea. Okay. With Jan Bhagidari. See, this is a very important concept that you need to use in ethics. In ethics, there is a concept of social influence. Influence, basically. So, influence means your ability to convince and persuade. Jan Bhagidari is probably the most powerful way in a democracy to convince and people are on board. Jan Bhagidari literally translate to people's participation. Okay? As the core of the mission involving people's participation at all stages. It is meant to evoke the collective spirit of the community. All associated occasions, including foundation laying, plantation, blah, 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 freedom fighter. That's all. Okay? Basically, the intent here is to show that you have one more mission for conservation, which is primarily meant to be an awareness program. Did this mission talk about extra funding? Did we talk about any fund allocation or research or grants or anything? That's what you need to know. It's mostly about studying, educating the crowd and studying the impact. Do not confuse the initiatives. Let's say, for example, Amrut is different from Amrit Sarovar. Don't confuse yourself with similar sounding words. Clear? Now, let's go to our newspaper. This one. Symbolism. What do you mean by symbolism? What do you understand by symbolism? How many of you have sociology optional? What is symbol? Sociologically, what is the significance of a symbol? Symbol. Symbol reflects expression of a value in a society. What is value? We already spoke about this in the ethics initiation class. In one of the current sessions of current affairs, I already took basics of ethics. What is a value? It's nothing but our preference. So, if some values in the modern world are considered to be undesirable, it means there is a social change. We prefer something because the society around us will give us something in return when you value or reject something. For example, if you value honesty, society will give you respect. If you value control and do anything for that power, the maximum you can get from people is maybe they're scared about you or they fear you, but respect need not come. If you only think of money, you can get something in return from society. That is jealousy or hatred. But when you think of a value that is acceptable to everyone and it doesn't trigger anyone, such kind of a value will give you peace in a society. When you're talking from a constitutional standpoint where governments are supposed to handle this need of peace, that is where the social contract comes into the picture. So, if you value peace, what should be the nature of the social contract between state and individual? The answer is equality. Equality is a prerequisite or a tool or a vehicle which will take us towards peace in a society. Correct. Now, if there are any symbols which normalize inequality, without you realizing it, they're normalized and they're made to feel okay. Such kind of symbols need to be erased from that society, and it is a responsibility of the state. Yes or no? It is in this context you need to know what the Tamil Nadu government did. The word colony or the word cherry, as it's called, anything that has this word colony or cherry, if I'm not wrong. It's a Tamil word, so I'm just searching for it once again. Okay. So historically, if you see how societies were segmented, usually the social outcasts or Dalits were made to stay out of the village. The same pattern replicated even in urban areas and settlements with the word colonies and cherry, etc. You will see such symbolism in government records, in literature, everywhere, unless and until the state takes up an initiative to rename them or change the official records, that stigma will continue. Let's say, if for many generations you know that a person hails from certain area, the likelihood of that person's identity getting revealed in a secular setup is very high, which defeats the whole point of Article 17. Right? What is Article 17? Abolition of untouchability. When you have these symbolic gestures which are normalized and state remains inactive, that will be a bigger problem. So recently the government of Tamil Nadu passed a bill which tried to erase this kind of names which signify that these settlements had Dalits or some symbolisms which refer to backward castes and scheduled castes, and they removed from the official records so that the stigma is erased from public memory. And this is what this article is about. Okay, so this is an article which is more important or can be used in your GS1 salient features of Indian society, caste, role of state in eradication of caste. And if you're an optional student, sociology optional student, you can use this in symbolism, cultural symbols, and the role they play. Okay, moving on. The difficult path for Trump's one but big budget bet. See, what is the poll promise of Donald Trump? So basically, we are not interested in US politics. We need to learn something for Indian politics, right? And this is what we are focusing on. What do we know about US economy? The nature of US economy as opposed to that of the Chinese economy. Sorry? Consumer based economy? Yeah, okay. But on the basis of ideology, capitalist. So US is considered to be a capitalist economy. In a capitalist economy, should we have social expenditure? Should we have welfare? That's a big question. The previous governments, both sides of the governments, like Democrats and Republicans, they have different philosophies and approaches on how they should govern this country. So, in a truest dedication to what US stands for, that is pro-capitalist economy, this government believes that we have to cut down wasteful expenditure, and as a poll promise, the government said that we will try to remove wasteful expenditure, and as a part of this, he came up with an initiative called DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. So now he wants to come up with one big bill which will try to eliminate the number of federal agencies. Like he wants to eliminate entire departments, fire them completely by saying that they are wasteful expenditure. So, if you want to achieve the end objective of a balance in an economy, you need to see economy from two standpoints, demand side and supply side. Okay, fine. Now, this bill is trying to do two things. One, cut wasteful expenditure. Two, induce economic growth through increasing demand by giving tax cuts. On one hand, you are saying I will remove wasteful expenditure. On the other hand, you are saying I will give tax cuts, which is supposed to bring more jobs. This is where the story gets complicated. Let's look at the statistics. Obviously, when you are looking at the richest country in the world, you are bound to believe that the government coffers are very full. They're very rich, right? But the reality is, US government has one of the lowest tax to GDP ratios, roughly around 18%. What does this tell you about the very nature of capitalist economy? I'll give you a small case to the point. Do you know that Amazon is a okay? Before that, I ask you, do you think Amazon is a successful company? What is success according to you? Returns on investment. Going by that definition, Amazon is broke. Amazon is yet to become profitable in all its ventures. What do you say about it? Do you have to change your definition of success? How does a capitalist work? See, if you have to pay profit taxes, if you earn profit, unless and until you reinvest, that is considered as a profit, and unless and until you spend money, it is considered as a profit, or you have to pay tax for that. The biggest problem in US economy is that nobody pays taxes. The rich folks, they, let's say for example, Jeff Bezos, he has certain shares in Amazon. In avoidance of those taxes, he would rather mortgage them, take a loan against them, live off that loan, and repay that next year and show that as a tax saving rather than paying the tax. On one hand, you are saying I will give more tax cuts to the wealthy capitalists. On the other hand, you are saying I will cut down the welfare, citing that it is waste of money. In fact, these tax cuts is going to raise the debt by 3.6 trillion in the next 5 to 10 years, which is very high, very, very high. What is the point of doing all this if the end objective is not to create that balance in the society? The rich is getting richer and the poor is getting poorer, which widens the gap of inequality. And no matter how wealthy that kind of a country is, it's going to be very chaotic. Crime rates will increase. Immigrants will not be welcomed. Only in a place where this gap is not very high, you will see US economy doing relatively well, stable. The crime rates have been stabilized. But with this kind of measures, you will not see that again. Okay, that's the thing you need to know. You need to see the demand side and the supply side and find the Q balance, and that is the same lesson that Indian economy should also learn. This is repetitive. I don't want to cover this again and again. The basics of Kaleshwaram project for your prelims. Okay, mostly from prelims standpoint. The biggest takeaway or the fact that you need to know about Kaleshwaram project is that it is the world's largest. Is it something that we should be proud of? That's a question. See, it's definitely an engineering marvel. But is it cost effective? Or is this the only solution that can solve the water problems of Telangana? These are the questions asked not by me but by an expert panel recently. Whatever questions that I'm asking are asked by experts. So let us look at the facts of the case. When do you quantify success in a public project like this? There are two dimensions. One, its intended objective. That should be attained. And second dimension is it is financially as well as administratively viable. Second problem, let's have a look. One of the biggest complaint, first of all, in an oversimplified scenario, let us see how, this is a side view. Let's say, for example, this is how Telangana is when we are looking at from a side. Water is flowing here in these directions. For example, we are on a higher area. We need lift irrigation because we have to lift water from here and supply here. Okay, that is the whole point of lift irrigation. Now, if the cost of lifting this is much higher than the revenue that you will get out of it when you supply water, it is usually a problem. Now, the cost of lifting this water is definitely higher. The power bill is going to be very high. But the previous government said that it is justified because it is going to empower the lives of people and we don't have an other alternative. Okay, fine. So we started the process. When you start a mega engineering project like this, you need to abide by rule of law. The major allegation here is that this rule of law is not followed. The first is any design changes should be approved by a committee with good justification. Okay, design changes, and those design changes, even after the committee approves it, on a second level, you need a cabinet approval. So, after Congress government came into the picture, they appointed one judge committee Who is that judge? Pinaki Chandra Ghosh. As a part of the inquiry, the committee inquired previous ministers, including the ex-chief minister, and laid out that the finance minister especially has been very reckless in releasing the funds without any proper audits. Coincidentally, the same finance minister is now in another party. And the same committee also raised a flag saying that there are allegations that the chief minister has not sought consent from the cabinet. So, rule of law is a big question mark according to the committee. Now, when it comes to the design changes, let's say there is a place. Okay, that place, that place had some funding and a approved design. In both these parameters, the budget changed. In both these parameters, the budget changed, and even the approved site was removed and an alternative site was considered. As UPSC aspirants, it's not important to go into the detailing and the names of these sites, but just understand the core allegation here. Once the site is changed, the major problem of the new site is that it is not conducive for construction of those dams or those piers, because the soil underneath which the structure is laid, it is not very strong. There was a committee report also, and true to that estimation, at 3 places there was failure. The initial cost of this project, the article says 70,000, but even before that, 10 years before that, the cost was somewhere around 37,000 crores. Later it was increased to 70,000 crores, and then now it is more than 1.1 lakh crores, the total cost. And despite that, within 3 years, we have had cracks in 3 major spots, almost rendering those sites useless. On the other hand, let's compare the Nagarjuna Sagar project, constructed the fraction of its cost even when you adjust it to inflation, and it stood many floods, many strong. So way back in 2010, the floods in Andhra Pradesh, the Srisalem Dam, for example, it is also a very old dam. At that point of time, there was a huge scare that Srisalem Dam will be broken. If that happens, the entire downstream villages will be washed off. That flood was actually designed for once in a 100-year flood. But you know what? We got such amount of volume that it is a once in a 1,000-year flood in 2010. And yet it stood without even a slight bend in its piers. Compare that with this one. 3 years of operation and there are cracks within the piers. So, in ethics, you will find this topic, utilization of funds. Until and unless proven, we can't say for sure that this is the reason as per law. But as per ethics, you can definitely raise questions. Clear? What are the questions that you will raise? What is the logic behind change of site? Is it based on scientific inquiry or any other reason? The reasoning will give you answers, and finally those reasons itself will prove to be a ground to decide if the actions taken are ethical or not. They might be legal, but there is a gap between legal compliance and ethics, and that gray space is where most of the questions will fall into. Okay, the last article for the day, we discuss this. See, in Jal Jeevan Mission also, you've had this contaminated sites, right? So this is the article that I'm talking about. The Environment Ministry, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. It came up with new environment rules. So based on which act? If Environment Rules 2025 coming up, what is the original act? So you will have an act for which you will come up with some rules. Clear? Okay. Now, when it comes to contaminated sites here, you will see that as per the latest rules, it is mandatory for let's say you identify a site. It is mandatory to carry out a audit of that site. If the government finds that there is contamination, you have to follow the replenishment of that site, restore the natural balance, remove the chemical pollutants to conserve the sanctity, ecological sanctity of that region. It is on this front you need to know the concept of polluter pays concept. Polluter pays. See, if a site is polluted and it is proven that an industry is responsible for this, then the government will collect money for all this replenishment activities from those industries. If the industries are not in a position financially to pay for that, which will impact their profitability, then the state will pitch in. Or if the state government is not able to do it, center will pitch in. Eventually, the objective here is to remove those pollutants from the site and make them healthy for human habitation again. And this is one of the major steps to prevent land degradation. Okay. So the meta level concept that you need to link this to is land degradation. So that's the set of articles that are important for the day. Clear? That's it for the day. So in today's activity with respect to prelims, we have seen how the examiner mindset will be applied for curating prelims questions. Tomorrow or day after tomorrow, we'll switch back to mains answer writing once again. Before we come into the class again, just make sure that you revisit the previous articles in the last 3-4 days, and whatever answer writing basics that we have discussed in the class, we will repeat and try to apply them again here. That's it for the day. Thank you.